Hello, Shortcuts. This is video 2 for April 3rd. Before I go on my month-long break, this is the final list, and this is the soul, reggae, dub, salsa, and funk list. All right, the price list will go out 9 p.m. Sydney time, sharp, as always. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to start with an Australian pressing. So, it is this. It is Jammed Together. Albert King, the famed Steve Cropper from the Stax house band, Booker T and the MGs, and Pop Staples from the Staples Sisters. Now, why is this so interesting? So this is an Australian press from 1969. So manufactured in Australia by Festival Records. It's still in pretty good nick. Like all these things, the Australian sleeves are pretty flimsy, but it's pretty solid. What is remarkable is how good it sounds. So this is on the classic yellow Stax label. There's a little bit of writing on this side. I can't tell you too much about who pressed it and what they did. What I can tell you is that there are no sales on Discogs. Never been sold before that I can see. It's really quiet, beautiful vinyl. It's been kept in great condition, and it sounds amazing. The only reason I'm getting rid of it is I have a duplicate on my shelf, and I played them both the other day. I can't tell. I think they both sound, and it's the Japanese first press and this, and the only reason I'm keeping the Japanese first press is because the sleeve's better. But other than that, it sounds amazing. And so what you've got is these three amazing guitarists wrapping, their strings around some soul standards. So you've got the likes of Knock on Wood, Trashy Dog, Tupelo. Tupelo has Pop Staples on vocal, and if you didn't know, you would think it was a full-on John Lee Hooker tune. Really almost disconcerting. It's kind of echoey guitar, single chord, very JLH. The opening track, what I'd say, is maybe my favorite. It's, just this really fun blues jam with obviously the great soul backing. You can hear they're having fun in the studio, so you don't get the big not orchestra, but the horn sections and things like that very much. This is much more guitar oriented. You do get Steve Cropper on vocals as well on one occasion on the second half, on side 2, which I really like. That song's called Water. Yeah, very unusual and fine sounding Australian pressing. I've got mostly Japanese, one Jamaican first press. All right, we're going to move into the realms of Shortcuts royalty now. So these are records that many of us have picked up over the years of the club now. And this is the Japanese first press of Aretha Franklin live at Fillmore West. Of course, backed by the wonderful King Curtis and his band that featured Billy Preston and Cornell Dupree, Bernard Purdy on drums. Opens with an absolute breakneck take on Respect, at least twice the speed that you would normally hear it. But then, after a couple of songs, it's really where the genius kicks in. Her cover version of Bridge Over Troubled Water. It's it's to be heard to be believed. She twists Eleanor Rigby ever so slightly and makes it a song in the first person, which really works. Dr. Feelgood kicks off side two. I mean, the band are cooking by this point. But this is where, and in fact, this is one of my favorite little Japanese inserts. Can you see that? And it is Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles. And what it says up here is, and then it was time for her last encore. And she came back on with Ray Charles. So the second half, pretty much all the second half of this record is almost exclusively handed over to the encore she did with Ray Charles. Now, rumor has it she only met Ray Charles that day. And I tell you, the chemistry between them, it was magnificent. What a fantastic live record. Talking about live records, and I think they were released in the same year, 72, maybe that was 71, the Fania All-Stars. So Fania being a record label that was set up in, I think it was 64, maybe 65, to celebrate Latin music. And the Fania All-Stars was a live record recorded 71 and released in 72, and this is the Japanese press. Phenomenal hard cardboard gatefold, complete with obi. You can see it says salsa across the top. The Fania All-Stars live at the Cheetah. Musicians Ray Barretto on congos, who you will have heard me talk about because of his record that he did, Acid, that was a record of the year, or a record of the month. I think it was December last year, Vinyl Me Please, one of my favourites. If you haven't got a copy of that, just let me know. Willie Colon, who his records are now super hard to get. Oh my gosh, he's really taken off. Larry Harlow on piano, who is, I think, the star of the show. Johnny Pacheco, Bobby Valentin, and then just an absolute smorgasbord of salsa superstar singers like Hector Lavoe, Ishmael Miranda. It's brilliant. It's just fun. And what's really special about this pressing, you know how much I love these. This is the white label promo. The whole of the second side is this song, Quitate 2. It's about 18 minutes long. And it is basically the greatest salsa musicians of all time one-upping themselves. But also, the vocalists are clearly improvising their verses and singing about their youth and the crowd are just going bananas. This was live at the Cheetah, which I think was a club in New York. And when I was reading up about this, I mean, a couple of years after this, they're playing stadiums to 45,000 people. So this was the beginning of something great. And the Fania label is one that Vinyl Me Please reach into now pretty regularly. They did a Hector Lavoe in January. Obviously, Ray Barretto in December. So I don't know. I think there'll be more to come. I love this record. Highly recommend it. Now, let's switch things a little bit. You do know I love my reggae. So I've got a reggae superhero here. I've got the Jamaican first press of Buddy Wailer's Just Be Nice. Some, reggae royalty. But this record I love more. This is called The Dub Factor by Black Uhuru. Now, Black Uhuru had won, I'm pretty sure it was the first reggae Grammy year before, with an album called Chill Out. So Black Uhuru being a British reggae band based out of London. Pretty sure it was London. But what they did with Black Uhuru was they went back into the studio with the stems of tracks from Chill Out, with Sly and Robbie um, on rhythm section, and they re-recorded dub versions of these records. And there were two producers. I'm trying to remember the two guys who ran the studio. But what you get is super echoey, kind of bouncy drum and bass rhythms. But Black Uhuru did an amazing job with the vocals. Echoey, kind of almost sinister in places. Some big highlights. Big spliff on side one is, if it doesn't go into your top 20, 30 songs of all time, just first time you hear it, then you're not me, because that's exactly what it did to me. And the second half, featuring Android Rebellion and particularly Apocalypse, is really wonderful. This comes with Obi. It's in just perfect condition. It's one of these wraparound Obis, so you can see the Obi wraps around the front sleeve. There they are. I think this is easily Black Uhuru's most, I'd say the album that has aged the least, and gets a very regular spin in my place. Highly, highly recommended if you like dub. Black Uhuru's Dub Factor. I am continuing my somewhat unhealthy, but I think completely justified infatuation and adoration for Bill Evans. Last week I had Bill Evans Interplay and Bill Evans Undercurrent, Bill Evans and Jim Hall Undercurrent, and I was admonished by you all and somewhat upset because no one grabbed Undercurrent. But this is actually the follow-up to Undercurrent. This is called Intermodulation, released a few years later. Opening track is I've Got You Under My Skin, and it is amazing. If you don't smile all the way through I've Got You Under My Skin, something's wrong. It's just beautiful. I love this inner sleeve as well. Just the notes are really beautiful and give you there's actually biographies of the two players, and it's interesting listening to or reading about their past histories, trying to figure out why they work so well together. There's Cole Porter covers and all sorts. It's absolutely fantastic condition. Also on Black Fur, it's Intermodulation by Bill Evans and Jim Hall. I guess Eno is probably, to my mind, the greatest legend to come out of the 70s, because he had three, I guess maybe Bowie as well, but like Bowie, Eno had these intertwining linked stages. So you have the Roxy Music phase. First two records of Roxy Music, as good in my mind as rock music gets. Then this phenomenal run of solo records that his fans, I think the phrase they called them his pop records, even though they're not particularly pop, but they're still brilliant. You've got, Another Green World and Talking Tiger Mountain and stuff like that. There's four of them, and they're great. They're, Before and After Science. They're brilliant, all of them. And then he records a series of 4 ambient records. And it's really the ambient records that over the last few years that I've been digging into a little bit more. I'm always going to love those 4 solo records. I think they're right up there with, and also Roxy. I mean, he's amazing. But this one is my favorite of the Ambient records, and it is Ambient 2. Um, they did with Harold Budd, a pianist. And so part of the reason I really like Ambient 2 is, of course, you've got the kind of aural landscapes that were fascinating, at the time. But then what you've got is wonderful, pretty, delicate piano by Harold Budd. And it's not a million miles away. I can't imagine Neil Stram and these guys must know this record. This is the first press with the Obi, as you can see. The Plateau of Myrrh, Ambient 2. I have Ambient 4. I have it in the box. I've had it for 2 years and no one has bought it. So maybe just me. I have this on my shelf and I will play this and it's beautiful. So anyway, if you don't know it, seek it out. Probably this record is like the direct opposite of the Plateau of Myrrh. This is the greatest hits of Kool and the Gang, compilation of the songs from their first 3 records. Just particularly wild and peaceful, just brilliant. Funky stuff, jungle boogie. If you want a fun record to get people up when they're around your place, you cannot go wrong with that. 2 more to go. This is Midnight Believer, B.B. King, 1978. I think a little bit of an underrated B.B. King record. He made this record with the Crusaders, who were a really popular kind of jazz fusion band at the time. And what you've got is, rather than the kind of typical B.B. King live band where they defer to B.B., what you've got is more of an equal partnership. And you've got musicians who are weaving themselves around B.B. King in ways that I think sound like they quite inspire him. He seems really engaged. I love the back sleeve of that. What an image that is. B.B. holding Lucille. And this did really well. This made it into the soul charts. It's a really nice record on the ABC Records label. And then finally, I've got this on the Impulse label. This is Sonny Rollins on Impulse. It's worth reading the All Music review of this record because I am not that familiar with it. I do like these pictures. Sonny arrives and Sonny is greeted by Rudy Van Gelder, a legendary producer, typically on Blue Note, but in this case on Impulse. So you've got Sonny Rollins, Ray Bryant on piano, Walter Booker on bass, Mickey Roker on drums, recorded July 8th, 1965. Now the song that I played earlier was the opening track, On Green Dolphin Street. And what struck me in a very cursory listen is just how mellow and happy the band sound. It's very relaxed. The All Music review is an absolute rave review. They clearly loved it. I'm not as much of a Sonny Rollins fan as some of you out there. But it's not very expensive and it's beautiful Impulse gatefold. And yeah, I think there's someone else to love this one, I think. So there you have it. Some blues, some jam blues, in fact, some ambient, jazz, funk, soul, live soul, the usual shortcuts smorgasbord. If you liked the video and you're still with me, please leave me a comment. No one comments. I know you're all busy, but if you do have a moment, they're much appreciated. And price list will go out 9 p.m. on Wednesday. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Love as always. Thank you. Bye.